Now, Joran, I know that you spend a huge chunk of your time working with executives, working with leadership and their teams, trying to make things more effective. I would love your take on what do you see as the big issues as to why leaders often struggle in that role?
Well, you've set it up pretty well. We're not taught how to lead historically. Even someone that goes through, and the academic process or business school, that's not something we're shown or taught, and it's rarely modeled. I'll say it's rarely modeled well for us. And, in an increasingly complex business environment as we go forward into the future, and we are surrounded by many screens and devices, and we've got this continuous partial attention happening, and we've got scaling, ideally scaling organizations that we're leading. Yeah, there's a tendency to blame and finger point, away from ourselves at the market or others or circumstance. And, that there are things that happen in organizations like, people just not showing up, people not being honest, people not hitting their goals, people holding back, people being withholding where they, used to bring a bunch of great ideas to the table, ineffective meetings, right? Churn, staff turnover, all of this stuff. You can, as a leader, point at that and say, well, I don't have a good team, right? You can blame them, you can blame what's happening around you, and the reality is that you need to be showing up as a leader. The other thing you can do is finger point at yourself. The other thing you can do is blame yourself and say, I deal with a lot of coaching clients who are either, I don't want to be that kind of manager. I came from that environment. I'm trying to do this differently. I'm trying to show up as a different, kind of manager or director or CEO. And they don't really step into that leadership role, and that's, you mentioned people leaving jobs. There was a recent report that came out, The Future of Work, and it said, I think 65% of millennials have left a job because of their manager, and it's the platitude of people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad managers. This is the reality that we live in. So stepping up and being a leader and knowing that the best leaders lead from the bottom of the pyramid, that they get the best results through other people. That's a key. That's a key to being a leader in this future complex business world that we're all co-creating.
You said something I think that's very interesting. I just want to explore a little bit with you, which is blame. And it's very interesting that people often point the finger of blame outwards. And you're saying, well, often they do, but there are also many cases where people point that finger back at themselves. And then you get what I call is the woe is me, woe is me. And nobody wants to be around woe is me. It's that black cloud, so to speak, of doom and gloom.
And it could be woe is me, or it could be, oh, well, I was never shown, I was never taught. And, as a team member, it's like, well, then go read a book or something, go study up, brush up on how to do this, man. You're leading us,
Right. So what I wanted just to very briefly hit on is the difference between blame and we'll go even further and say making excuses versus honest learning and saying, I want to understand what happened here. I want to understand why it happened, because it wasn't the outcome that I wanted. And what am I going to do differently next time so that the outcome is certainly different and hopefully more along the lines of doing that. And when you go through that process, do you have any points of view about, should that be self-reflective? Should that be, I need to get the members of my team involved and have an honest, constructive conversation? Is it a combination? Your experience, Joran, on what works best?
I'm a huge believer. It's like my favorite quote in the world. This line from T. Harv Eker. It's how you do anything is how you do everything. So look at how you're showing up in all of your relationships, your friendships, your family relationships. How are you leading in other ways? How are you solving those problems? How are you communicating clearly and effectively in those situations? How are you learning from things you could have said differently or framed differently, or, how are you getting better all the time? And then just do that with your team.